The Morristown Green, a central park echoing with the footfalls of Washington and his compatriots during the Revolutionary War, is not merely a serene escape, but a living testament to the town's pivotal role in shaping our nation. Morristown's history seamlessly intertwines with every individual who grew up there, creating a childhood rich in the echoes of the past and a vibrant spirit of community carried forward by each successive generation. These are their stories. This is Beyond the Green.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Green, where we talk everything Morristown. My name is Peter, Morristown High School, class of 1990.
And I'm Satiri, or Terry, Morristown High School, class of 1987.
So we're going to have another great conversation coming up in just a moment. But before we do that, I have a public service announcement for the graduating class of 1984, as they will be having their 40th reunion Columbus Day weekend 2024. So roughly in about 8 months or so, they're going to be gathering in Morristown. We just spoke to Steve Glynn the other day, and he asked us just to talk about this briefly. He's looking for people to sign up for this so they can get a head count sooner than later. And you can actually go online and sign up at www.reuniondb.com. The link's going to be found below. Just click on it, sign up. The sooner the better. And I think for those of you who graduated 40 years ago, some of you may have never been to a reunion. I think it's a good time. 40 years, come on, let's let bygones be bygones, everybody got, we all put a little weight on. And I didn't even graduate in 84, and I still put on weight on. But you guys should go out there, sign up for it. It seems they're going to do everything Friday through Sunday on this. There's going to be a slew of events. And it just sounds like a real good time. Again, the link is down. Sign up. And if you have any questions, let us know. We'll pass them on to Steve. Or when you're on Facebook, just send Steve a message, and I'm sure he can help you with any of your questions or concerns that you have. Now, our upcoming conversation is going to be with none other than 1987 graduate of Morristown High School, Michael Briggs. Michael was a football player. He played defensive back, and he has a really compelling story of his perspective of growing up in Morristown. It's a perspective that neither one of us is relatable to, just because of the obstacles that he had in life growing up in Morristown. But it really is a compelling story, and I can't wait till you guys watch it. We basically just let Michael talk. We asked a few questions, but we let him just go. And this conversation, this episode it's an hour and 20 minutes, but it's like I said, it's really compelling, really full of information. And again, if you guys have questions, we would love to hear your feedback on what he has to say. If you agree with his perspective, if you don't agree with it, or just want to give feedback. And also at the end of it, we'd appreciate it for those of you that are watching on YouTube. Hit the subscribe and like button. And if those of you that are listening on your favorite podcast sites, please do the same. So without further ado, here is Michael. Mike Briggs, welcome to the show.
How you doing, guys? It's great.
Pretty good.
Good man.
So for those of you who remember Mike is a fellow alumnus, class of 1987. Mike was also on the football team, and as we just learned off screen here, he was a defensive back for the Colonials. So Mike, why don't we go back and tell your early life in Morristown? Were you born in Morristown?
No, I wasn't born in Morristown. I actually was an Air Force kid. My father had served in the Air Force. And I grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
My mother was going to college. She worked for, the police department in New York. Um, and upon graduating, she was offered a job with Bell Laboratories,
Okay.
and they moved us out to Morristown. My mom, it took a little while because my mom wasn't sure where she wanted to move to. So
Mm-hmm.
on weekends we would get in the car and drive here or drive there to see a house or see an apartment and everything. But my mom, being the intelligent woman that she is, very resourceful, she did a lot of research and everything, and like I said, she did. We ended up settling in Morristown. Um, the reasons, if you were to ask my mother why she chose Morristown, it
Mm-hmm.
was because they had a good school system. The school
Mm-hmm.
district was apparently ranked, very well, and
Yep.
also because of how senior citizens were looked after. Because my grandmother also moved out to
Yep.
New Jersey with us. My one aunt, she stayed in New York because we still owned an
Okay.
building in Brooklyn. So
Okay.
I came out, uh, started school in third grade. So
Okay.
so
Where'd
more
you go? Where was third grade for you? What school?
third grade for me was at Hillcrest.
Okay.
So I went to Hillcrest School.
Yeah.
Where we lived on Fairview, Bud Street, because
Okay. Yep.
you know kind of it's kind of odd, but Bud Street goes all the way up to my driveway, and then after my driveway, it turns into Fairview.
Got it.
Funny thing is that the town line between the township and the town
Mm-hmm.
runs down the outside or on the far side of our property.
Sure.
So
Wow.
it's people will think because the township literally picks up garbage on one side of the road,
Mm-hmm.
comes down to our driveway, turns around, and goes back up the hill.
Got it.
So yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
later on, it kind of became a pain in the ass because my mom would be like, you're turning into our driveway, this big heavy truck, and
Yeah.
you're making the ground go down. Don't do
Yeah.
that. And after enough complaints, they would go down to Bud Street Park and turn around and then come back up there.
Got it.
A couple extra dollars, but for the taxes that people in the township pay, hey, you know what?
Exactly.
You can afford it.
So
So
Yeah.
after Hillcrest for you came what?
after Hillcrest, I then went to Alexander Hamilton. So
Okay.
because where I am, literally, I was between both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could have walked to Alexander Hamilton, but my
Mm-hmm.
mom get on the bus, so we got on the bus. To go to Hillcrest, same thing. I mean, it may have taken a little bit longer, but I mean,
Sure.
even at that age, third grade, you don't want your child walking a long
Mm-hmm.
distance. So once again, was able to walk up a hill, up to the top of the hill, and caught a bus, for the 5 minutes on a bus ride
Sure.
to
Yeah.
Hillcrest
Yeah.
School. So, but
And
yeah,
then
then I,
and then after that Frelinghuysen, right?
yep, then we went to Frelinghuysen.
So in Frelinghuysen, where'd you start off? Was it, you remember how they had 7-1, 7-2, seven
Yeah,
three?
I think I was 7-1 because I
Okay.
can remember now that you say it, my teachers I had Miss Real, who,
Oh yeah.
who
Oh
was,
yeah, Mrs. Rio. Listen, I could tell you stories about her, but I'm not going to.
she
Off
was
the air. But
a heavy,
anyways.
heavy set blonde haired lady.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I had her. I had
Do you have Mr. Perry?
Mr. Perry. Yes, I had Mr. Perry as
Yeah.
and Mr. Kirstein.
Yeah.
Kirstein was my homeroom teacher in seventh grade. And then, because there were 4 classes
I
to each unit,
Yeah.
like
I had bongo.
Bongo may have been it. You were in 7-1.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, see, but then you know what? That was then even because you could be in that same unit and still not know everybody in the unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
because like I had homeroom, and then okay, then you go to this class, then you go to that class, and
Right.
I
whatever.
want to
Right.
say that they separated the units out by last name, if I'm correct.
Hmm.
Could be.
I want to say that, but I'm not, because I was in 7-1 as well, so that's why I had all the same teachers. And the thing about Mr. Perry, do you remember this? Something that you can't do now. You remember he used to do Perry's pinch, where he used to come up to you and
Yes.
give you, and you used to be like a freaking Klingon, and
Yeah.
he used to come up to you and like pinch your nerve in your
Oh yeah.
shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my man would be in prison right now, you know?
Oh, yeah. And put your hands on kids today. I mean, uh, going back with football, you know,
Yeah.
I only played 3 years. I played
Uh-huh.
freshman, sophomore, and junior year. My senior year, they brought in the grade point average, and
Mm-hmm.
it was that grade point average thing kind of decimated our class at Terry. I mean, just there were so many guys that didn't play that year, and it wasn't like people like if the grade point average was a 1.9, let's say, it wasn't like people had zeros or
Right.
negative.
Right.
I mean, myself, I had like a 1.8 and it
Mm-hmm.
was 1.9. Um, now George Bellis was the head coach, and you as a student, we don't know. We know that this grade point average thing is there, but it's like, coach, I'm like a point away, and it's like you don't know what to do. Season's coming around and everything, and there were referrals that you could have gotten. So in other words, I don't think referral is actually what I mean. But what you were allowed to do is you would have been allowed to play, but they would have kept an eye on your grades. And if your grades fell, they would have said, "No, you're off the
So,
team."
so
Mm-hmm.
is it like a waiver? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
that's what I meant. It was a waiver.
Yeah, got it.
But he didn't offer these waivers. He only offered the waivers to certain kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one kid in particular I remember that I remember people telling me the stories of, and this kid went out, he was on a team, got the referral, and you know god, they were horrible. I mean, if you remember, Satiri, football team that year did not win a game.
Yeah.
They did not win zero, you know and this kid quit midway through the season. He quit. That
Wow.
to me was a waiver that was wasted on somebody,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and to me was a poor decision on Bellis's part. I think
Yeah.
that when you looked at us as freshmen, we only lost one game, and that was with what everybody considered the best player in our class, Lance Sally. Without him, we went 6-1-2. Now you have him, and you have a majority of those kids. We could have gone to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, Morristown was the laughing stock of the county. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the history
So
they've always had with Morristown football, they were just it was pitiful. It was sad.
your decision to play defensive back was, did you like specifically go after that position? Like, why not running back? Why not wide receiver?
Well,
Why do you
freshman year, I I wanted to play wide receiver, but
Okay.
the thing was that more everybody else had played like youth football, whether it be they played for the Morristown Cougars or the Twin Town Tiger Cat,
Mm-hmm.
Twin Town, whatever they are, or they played for the Morris Township Wildcats.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else had experience. Um, in eighth grade, I wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
and everything, but my mother said no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nope, you're not playing. If you get injured, I'm going to have a doctor. You're not playing. You can play all you want when you go to high school.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I went out, but everybody else had experience. So
Okay.
first, I kind of thought was going to play wide receiver. Then, we had who was it? We had Frank Santarelli was a
Mm-hmm.
coach, and this guy Longo something Longo,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Longo, was the other coach, and I think I was at wide receiver, and then I think tight end, and defensively, I think I definitely played defensive back. But
Okay.
then when we went sophomore year, I kind of played
Mm-hmm.
slot because of the offense, the way that it was run, and I played defensive back. But generally, I just stayed at defensive back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So think about that when you're like so freshman year is like 80 what 3 for you, 84, 83 was your freshman year.
yeah,
Yeah.
So looking back, were you trying to emulate your play with somebody in the NFL?
um, yes.
Who was that?
I mean, for me, the person that I liked and just was a defensive back, a corner
Mm-hmm.
named Lester Hayes for the Raiders.
Yeah, yeah.
And we all kind of remember the billboard that was out in LA of him, bent over. He's just this mean guy. He's got the stickum hanging from him. When you look back at old, NFL films, clips of this guy
Mm-hmm.
was just nasty. You
Yeah.
don't catch the ball on my side. If you do, I'm gonna knock 10 sacks out of you, and that was it. And
Yeah.
that was how I like. That's how I played. Through Morristown.
Yeah.
Later on, without playing football, I kind of, oh well, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, guidance counselors in the high school at that time were just horrible because I think I had Mr. Perone, I think his name was,
You're not going to get any argument out of us from this.
and,
It
and
was like, listen, it might have been, it was, and people are going to hear this and they're going to get upset. But in retrospect, I can say this. Listen, guidance counselors in our day, waste of time.
yeah,
And they couldn't, Helen Keller could have helped us better
yeah, yeah.
than some of them did.
I mean, the
And,
thing for me was that coming up all through like Hillcrest, Alexander Hamilton,
mhm,
I was a gifted and talented student,
mhm,
testing, high off of the charts. What happened when I got into high school? Started playing football, started trying to be popular with people.
mhm,
So, where I'm trying to do this, my grades started to fall.
Yeah.
mhm, mhm,
I'm very fortunate to have the mother that I had because
mhm,
my mom was huge. She still is huge, uneducated,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm sending you to prep school. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
I graduated, obviously. She sent me to a prep school, and it was a prep school in North Carolina. And the whole idea for going to this prep school was you're getting to play your football because, what happened there, even though my mom said, well, it was great. When she found out about the waivers, she was kind of like, well, were you told about this? And I was like, no. I said,
Mhm.
there's a lot of guys that we were never told about it, but this kid like Infinito, I said, and she was like, oh, well, that explains it. And I was like, well, and when you're young, you don't get what your parents mean when they say things like that. You're kind of just like,
Sure.
he's you start making excuses of, well, he's younger, he's going to be back, whatever, I'm a senior. But,
Yeah.
later on, you look back at it, and especially myself, having been a coach now in Morris County and going to the Morris County meetings of coaches, that coaches know well in advance of things coming down the pipeline. I mean, as players, we weren't notified about this until June. So now, whatever you had for grades, you were trying to scramble and say, "Oh, we're gonna do extra work," and you're already in June summer mode, and oh, I'm kicking back. I don't feel like really working. We're almost
Yeah.
in. But oh, do I have to go to summer school? Whatever. Nothing. I mean, a point. I mean, a point is okay. You know what? He got a C rather than a B.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so went to the prep school and I played football there. Did my SATs. Ended up scoring, I think, like a 1080 or something like that. I scored high. Um,
Okay.
and was able to send out applications. Um, the thing with this school, being that it was small, was that the administration, headmaster, made us write letters, even as athletes, write letters to coaches. And one of the letters that I wrote was to a school, Mansfield in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I wrote there because my best friend had gone there on a baseball scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd written to them and got a letter back. And they were like, "Oh, you played at Morristown? Oh, well, and I back and forth with this coach. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
God, would love to have you come up. I never heard of you, didn't see you, anything else. And it was just like later on, now, obviously, it's just like, you know, those coaches really only had their little puppets, their little, ones that, oh, we'll take care of him. Yeah, we're not worrying about him. He's not going to go. And it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
As a football coach now, I worry about all of my kids. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say all of my kids, I don't, defensive backs are, I would say, my sons because I'm with those guys. But
Mm-hmm.
linebackers, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, the quarterback, running backs, receiver, I view them all as my sons because I don't have any children. And I view
No.
them all as my sons. And I'm any kid that had played for me at Beard, you ask them, what was Coach Briggs like? And they'll tell you, oh, well, he yelled. Okay. Was he bad? And they would be like, no, he's not bad. He was on you because, you were playing and you wanted to go to college and, he would on you about your schoolwork, were you doing your school, which at Morristown Beard is not like Morristown High School. Morristown High School, you're kind of left to your own vices. It's a
Sure.
public, are you going to go to class? Yeah, I think I will. Well, you want to show up today? Nah, I don't want to. My grades are what my grades are. Duh. But at
Mm-hmm.
Morristown Beard, and I believe it probably at Del Barton, they're on you about your grades. It's funny. What was it? My first or second year at Beard, had two guys arguing on the practice field. And I'm like, what are you guys arguing about? Your teammates. I go over and find out these two kids are arguing over whose grade point average was higher. I literally looked at them both and I said, all right, let's focus on football. I turned around and I just started laughing like, oh my God. Like Morristown High School, you would never have that happen.
No. No.
I hate to say it, but the kids at Morristown High School playing football, they're not out there arguing, oh, well, I'm carrying a 3.5. All right, but I got a 3. No, that's not. And they're arguing over who should be the starting corner. The kids at
Wow.
Beard, they're worried about their grade point average, which really is the most important thing. Because if you don't have your grades as a player, no school
Mm-hmm.
talk to you. No school is going to offer you, and I've been very fortunate having coached at Beard that just about, yeah, every kid that I coached went on to college, you know.
Yeah.
And if I was taking a number, I'd say 3 out of 4 went and played college football, which
Wow.
is really good as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I went there, had an offer from Wake Forest. My mom turned it down to this day. I don't know why, but I think the reason was it was a book scholarship. You know,
Mm-hmm.
being all the way in North Carolina, the travel and so forth. Um, but eventually I settled and I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore,
Okay.
which was good, right there in the heart of Baltimore, and it's an HBCU. So coming from Morristown, it was, it was eye opening for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was eye opening because now I was in a school that was the opposite of Morristown High School. Because
In what regard? In what regard?
in the regard that HBCUs are generally, as it says, historically black colleges and universities. So
Mm-hmm.
majority of the population are African Americans.
Okay.
So, so when I was on this campus now, I think to remember back, I think I saw 2 white people on the campus, that were students. And it was like, oh, whoa. So
Yeah.
now it was like I got immersed into black culture and I learned.
Got it.
And I mean, it's not like I didn't know it growing up,
Mm-hmm.
because when I was in Brooklyn, it was like, early mid 70s. So, my mother, we went to a Black Panther summer camp in Brooklyn, you know, um, obviously my grandmother being from Panama, we went to West Indian Day Parade on
Mm-hmm.
can't remember, West Eastern Parkway. So,
Mm-hmm.
in Brooklyn, it was a case of I was around African American culture. I saw things. When I moved to Morristown, it was culture shock,
Yeah.
because now I'm around my first white people, and it's like, okay, these people look different. They,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, and my mother never raised us to judge people on color,
Mm-hmm.
to judge people on how they are to you. If they speak to you with respect,
Yeah.
you can speak to them with respect. If they can't speak to you with respect, my mother always taught us, you don't speak to them at all. But me being me, you speak the wrong way to me at that point, and this is the way it was when I was young in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I think about 5th grade is stopped. I would fight people, and I literally got into fights almost every day.
So
Into
what you're saying, you spend a lot of time in the principal's office.
yeah,
That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, in third yeah, 3rd grade I did. I or I think I got suspended once.
Yeah.
Oh, from Hillcrest, 3rd grade, you got suspended? What?
Wow.
But but it was because it was an adjustment. It
Mm-hmm.
was a new school. I didn't really know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anybody. And everybody else had kind of already been kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade together. They all knew each other. Here's new kid, and everybody isn't necessarily welcoming of a new guy. It's kind of like, oh, he's not wearing, our kind of sneakers, or he dresses different, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And you go one of 2 ways. You either go into a shell and just kind of, off
Mm-hmm.
on your own, or you try and step out, or if it comes to it, you have fights.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had fights, and kind of was known as that.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Alexander Hamilton, though, that I had this teacher, Miss Smith,
Mm-hmm.
and Miss Smith like sat me down one day, and I think maybe I'd had a fight the day before, or whatever, and she just kind of really said to me, Michael, you can't go through life fighting everybody. You'll never make any friends. You know, she said, the reason that you're getting into fights is over somebody saying something. It's air.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it bother you.
Mm-hmm.
Turn around and walk away. Yeah, but
Yeah.
turn around and walk away. So I tried it, and it worked.
Yeah.
You know,
I, I
for
still
your
had a reputation, and people still would maybe start, but I didn't get into as many fights. I think
yeah.
after Alexander Hamilton, I don't think I had another fight until I was in high school. I think I had four. I think I had a total of 4 fights in high school.
Only 4?
Only four. Only
Yeah.
four. Only four, and I can remember. And I can remember who they were. I had a fight with a guy named Chuck Middaugh, and that was across the street from the front of the high school.
Yeah.
I beat
That
him up.
was that was the rumble on Early Street. Yeah.
Yeah, so I beat him up. Then I had a fight, and this fight was funny because the fight was egged on by a girl,
Okay.
and the guy that I had the fight with was a guy that I was cool with. He was good friends. He is good friends still with Anthony Schuler, and it was John Weeks. And I'd never ever had a problem with John, but this, how girls can be, and this girl Jessica.
Might as well listen. Since we're dropping names, might as well mention her name.
Yeah, Jessica Fife. She was all in his ear and everything else, and it was a couple of weeks. John was trying to egg me on and egg me on, and it just got to a point because now everybody's seeing it. So everybody's like, oh, go kick his head. Oh, you can beat him up. So you get kind of that bit braveness and yeah, okay, all
Yeah.
right. But I was still smart. So,
Yeah.
so we went, yeah, because John was bigger than me. John was bigger than me, and it was like, okay, I'll fight him. Yeah, we'll go across the street. But I was smart because at that time my grandmother lived in the senior citizens building.
Yeah. Right down the road. Yeah.
So it was like, okay, if I lose, I can run right into grandma's house.
Wow.
So me and him, we get into it, and like I said, John was bigger than me, and I was hitting him and hitting him. And I got a bit too brave, and I went
Yeah.
for those Karate Kid swing, and Don just caught me, and I went ooh, stumbled down. And here came Mr. Bullock running across. Oh, hey, get it! And they stopped it.
Wow.
Um, Afterward, I mean, because the thing was, I didn't want to fight him because
Yeah.
he had not had any problems. We'd been all right. He was friends with Anthony. I was like Anthony. We never. But this girl, Jessica Fife, was just, oh, Mike Briggs thinks he's this, and it was what it was. Because a couple of weeks later, I think we were at a party and we ended up in the bathroom together. And I said to him, I said, John, listen, I said, I don't know what people are saying. I said, but for me, it was a tie. I said, I was hitting you good. I said, I went for some stupid thing and you caught me. I said, that's a tie. I said, so if people are telling you that I'm saying I beat you, I'm here to tell you right now, no, I'm not. It was a tie. And we were good after that.
Yeah.
So
Well, you know what? Now, listen, listen, Jessica. If you're listening, we would love to hear your side of the story on this because we want to get you on and hear about this and be like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Don't know. Some people remember things, and other people tend to want to block them out.
yeah, yeah,
They tend to want to block them out and forget them. I mean, for me, high school was fairly good. I mean, I can't say that. Some people were like, God, I'm glad I'm out of there.
mm-hmm.
For me, I would say I enjoyed high school
Mm-hmm.
more or less.
Yeah,
I enjoyed being in the building. There were some classes that I enjoyed obviously more than others. You know, being on the football team was good.
mm-hmm.
At least until we were seniors, because I hung around with a lot of guys that were in the class of '86.
Mm-hmm.
So when we became seniors, I hung around with the people that I hung around with, but so did the older guys.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
it was what it was.
You know, what I want to just quickly talk about, just roll it back just a little bit time wise. You also played Little League.
Yeah, I did.
And the funny thing is, your coach for Little League was Ted France.
No, it wasn't. No,
It wasn't? Who
no,
was it then?
Prince wasn't my coach. I actually played for Sam Champy.
Oh, Sam Champion. Okay, okay, okay.
Um, Little League, I went out when I was 12 years old. And once
Okay.
again, because, I have a single parent,
Okay.
my mom had to take care of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Bills fell on her. So she would have to be at work, work late,
Mm-hmm.
going to college as well, because as everybody knows, you start out with one degree, you get paid one amount of money. You got another degree, you're getting more. And my mom just kept climbing.
Mm-hmm.
She's gotten her master's. You know, my mom to me is the strongest woman I have ever known
Mm-hmm.
and ever will. You
Yeah.
know, for what she had to do, in raising two boys, looking after my grandmother, my aunt,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like we went for not we didn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, growing up, everybody, oh, we're going to the shore, we're going to the seaside. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, my family, we went to the Bahamas,
Mm-hmm.
St. Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
left the country. So like now as adults, and people are like, oh, we're going to the Bahamas. I'm kind of like, yeah, I've been there, done that. It's like, okay, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
ended family there. People now, oh, we're going to stay at Paradise Island, and I'm like, but getting back to baseball, um, I went out for Little League, and it was my first real playing baseball. I'd played out in the yard or down at the park.
Sure.
Now this was organized hardball, aluminum bat, the whole 9 yards.
Which team were you on?
I started out. I ended up in minor A
Okay.
draft, and I was on the NCO guardsman, and I played for Mark Manahan's father.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, there was a newswoman, Kent Manahan.
Yeah, I went
Oh,
to.
yeah.
They were in my class, the kids.
Yes, you had Manahans in your house as well. They were
Mm-hmm.
stretched a few years through the high school,
Yeah.
But I played for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the funny thing was that I was very good for minor A.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I ended up playing for Fairchild for Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Tempe was that another person from our class of Terry, Brad Fielding,
Oh,
was
yeah.
was on Fairchild. But
Wow.
Brad apparently, as the story goes, stopped playing because he was playing tennis or something happened and he quit. So they needed another player.
Yeah.
Well, the choice for the player was down between me and Winston James. We were
Wow.
the two best players in minor A at the time.
Yeah.
And and I don't know whether they went to Winston first or came to me first, but when they came to me and said, you know what, would you be interested in going up and playing in the majors? You're going to play for Fairchild. It was like, yeah, I get to play on the real grass field, with the grass and the real night. Yeah, I'll go. So I ended up playing for Fairchild, but I know Ted France. Ted,
Okay.
Ted France coached, I think it was Allied Signal.
Oh, I said okay.
And I think he had Pat Oakley was on his team. I think Marcus Hickerson may have been on that team. Kiki Brown was on that team. There were a few people that I knew, but yeah,
Yeah.
France from back then.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing was he was one of two white guys that had afros. The, the other guy that had an afro was Mr. Catano, and but look at these guys like. You white. Like, how do you have an afro? Like, and when I would ask my mom, like, how do they? Oh, they got, they. Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so
So
I remember Ted France, and I've been a part. I don't even want to. I can't even say I've been a part. I've made postings
yeah.
a group that he had started. I think it was called Morristown 07960 then and now. And I made a few postings into the group, was invited into the group.
Mm-hmm.
And, it really is an interesting group because he posts a lot of old things about
Yeah.
Martin. And I mean, when I say old, I mean back, like I've seen photos of where there were cable cars in
Yeah.
Morristown and stuff, and it's like, oh, wow, really? Oh, different parts of the town. Like everybody now knows, generally Martin Luther King, Flagler, that housing projects there as being predominantly black when we were growing up. But in fact, through some of the photos that they've posted, that area was actually predominantly Italians. And
Hmm.
I and it was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So seeing this and the times that it was, I tend to ask those questions about those times.
Sure.
Were black people allowed in, certain stores? Or were they allowed to walk through the front door? Oh yes they were, and it's like, people become all of a sudden very defensive, and oh yeah, oh, there was no racism in Morristown. And it's like, I didn't say anything about racism. I'm asking you questions based on the way the country
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Yeah.
There was segregation.
Mm-hmm.
There were whites only, blacks only water fountains. Black people had to sit at the back of the bus. Okay, Morristown was still a part of the United States. It had to have been here.
Mm-hmm.
But these people just immediately, oh, what are you trying to impose and this? And what are you trying to say? You're race baiting. What are you talking about? Like,
Mm-hmm.
calm down, people. It's simple question. And you know, it's a person trying to find things out.
Yeah.
You stories. One story that I had heard was that there was a quote unquote race riot at Morristown High School. So I'm like, whoa, like what the hell? How did that happen? Like how did it start? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because the period of time was during the civil rights. It was. It was in the 60s. So, when I posed the question, people were like, oh, there was no race riot at Morristown High School. That never happened. That's just a story. It never happened. What are you trying to say? Da, da, da. And I'm like, well, okay, hey, I had heard, no, that didn't happen. It didn't happen like that. Da, da, da. Okay, uh, whatever. You need to do some research. Okay, wrong person to say that to. So I went and I did some research. And as it just so happened, whether it was for Black History Month or just, I think it was just a thing for Black History Month, that there was a display
Mm-hmm.
around the town. It was, and I saw it at the Morristown Library.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, there was articles there. There was a riot at Morristown High School, a race riot. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, well, wait a minute. So I go back in the group and I post and said, all of you were like, it didn't happen. Here's articles that it happened. Mouths dropped to the floor. Oh crap! I guess he did research. So now everybody turns from it didn't happen to, oh, the media's blown it out of proportion. Oh, and there was one woman who came on and said, well, yeah, my brother was involved in it. That's all I wanted to know. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you people like all getting? It happened. It's history. You know, you tell all of the history of a place, bad and good, indifferent. It's what happened in the past, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and it was just like Teddy even came to me and he's like, that's kind of inciting things and whatever people. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm just asking questions. I want to learn. I grew up here. I want to find out about the history of this town. That's what this group is supposed to be about. That's what I'm wanting to find out. And literally he went back and forth with me arguing. I mean, to the point, and this just really was bad. He even said to me at one point, maybe you need to go and start a Morristown history group for black people. And I was like, what? this is the same man that you sit here and you tell me, oh well, I go to church and I did this and I've coached kids of all national. But a black man is asking, trying to learn history, and because it possibly bothers you and your friends, and you don't want to talk about it, whether it's embarrassing to you or it brings back a bad memory, you want to tell me to go start another page for black people? Like, how divisive is that? This is supposed to be a town of everybody being inclusive and we all get along, but then you make that comment to me.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what it is also, Mike, that people need to, especially if anybody of this generation, any of the millennials or the Gen Zs are happen to watch this interview, people need to realize Reagan didn't sign making it a national holiday for MLK until 1986.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people need to recognize that, when you look in it, it happened in our lifetime
Yeah.
that it got signed into law. It's not uh like Veterans Day or anything like that was after World War I that
Hmm.
they were signed. This happened in our lifetime.
Right.
So it's kind of, we, for all practical sense and purposes, we've lived and breathed the history.
Yeah. And I mean,
You know.
you talk about MLK Day, Martin Luther King's birthday.
Hmm.
That is just as important as Washington's birthday or Lincoln's birthday. Kids get off for President's Day. Up
Hmm.
until, I don't know, because I don't think we ever got it off. I'd say recently, kids weren't getting off for Martin Luther King's birthday.
Hmm.
Why not? Uh,
Hmm.
Um, but then the last 3 years now, we have Juneteenth.
Hmm.
And Juneteenth, like, here is the thing. When you sit down and you think about it, everybody celebrates, oh, the 4th of July, the America became independent. We were free. Wait a minute. When did that happen? 1776. Americans were free. When did slavery end? 18 something? So, in actual fact, no, everybody wasn't free. In actual fact, white people were free. White people were free from the countries that they originated from, that they didn't like being told what to do.
Hmm.
Black people weren't free.
Yeah.
Black people that were brought here,
Hmm.
separated from their families, beaten, hung, we weren't free.
Yeah.
Now you have Juneteenth, which is when it actually came down that African Americans were now free. Slavery was
Hmm.
over. And yet people have a hard time with it.
Yeah. Which I think now, Mike, is a great time we can transition over to the conversation we had before about the history of Morristown and what we talked about off air about Frederick Douglass being in Morristown.
Hmm.
You want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Morristown, um, you went on all these little trips.
Hmm.
Oh, when you were in Alexander Hamilton, when you were in Hillcrest, you went to that little house or hut, whatever it is, across from Alexander Hamilton there, and saw all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the Timothy Mills house.
Timothy Mills house, yeah. I know it's the little red building there. I walk past over there. We have the encampment up there in Lewis Morris Park, where
Sure.
where we have Fort Nonsense. We got the Ford Mansion. You got the little village, Speedwell Village. So you see all of this history
Hmm.
of what happened, the Revolutionary War. And
Hmm.
everything is, oh, well, he stayed here and this is so good. And Benedict Arnold was here even. Benedict Arnold is, one of the worst people probably, in American history because he was a traitor, you know. But he was here. We get all of that. We're taught all of that. But Black history isn't even spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
Frederick Douglass was one of the first abolitionists, an educated man. I mean, he even founded Morgan State University, where I went to school.
Mm-hmm.
He came to Morristown and spoke. He had spoke. Now, this is going back, probably coming a bit forward from Washington, but still at a time where we have all of these other signs around town. Why didn't we have any type of not necessarily a monument, but a placard on the building where he spoke, or at least in the area where he spoke? You don't see
Mm-hmm.
it at all. Another thing that somebody recently told me that I'm working on doing some research on. Apparently, the Underground Railroad went through
Mm-hmm.
Morristown. We're never taught that,
Yeah.
you know. But we're taught, oh, George Washington, this, that, and the other. I was told a story, and this is something that people aren't told about George Washington. But George Washington created one of the most iconically racist household monuments that you would see in Butterworth or Bradford Estates. Do you know what it is?
No.
The lawn jockey.
Hmm.
When people will say, well, no, that's a little jockey. No. What it was it was a monument of a,
Mm-hmm.
and the person was originally a small black child
Okay.
that he had stand outside holding his horse in the winter, and the child froze to death. That's what the lawn jockey is.
Hmm.
Black people know this story. And that's why if you go to any black household,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never see a lawn jockey in front of a black person's house. But we're not told that about George Washington because it's negative.
Yeah. So, where exactly if you want to tell people, where exactly did Frederick Douglass speak in Morristown?
Well, as I came to find out, there
Yeah.
was a building that he spoke at, and it was where Epstein's department store used to be, where it's now Roots and whatever the name is of these apartments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, through my research, reading articles, there was a gentleman who was his great 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 grandson who
Mm-hmm.
found this out, did the research and everything else, came to Morristown, and just like we have the plaque up on Park Ave for, I think it's the bar or something at Benedict Arnold, and somebody got drunk. He wanted to have the placard put up on this building to say, hey,
Okay.
Frederick Douglass spoke here. He was an abolitionist or fighting for civil rights, da 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 da. And he was denied. He was denied by the developers or whoever held the building. Fortunately, though, Morristown did put a stand on the green, and it basically says, Frederick Douglass, was here, he spoke, this, that, and the other, it gives the date and everything else. But, um, is it enough? Yeah, I guess. But I know, going back to Ted France, he always likes to walk around and take pictures and stuff. And literally, he walked right past it and didn't even see it. And he was like, he posted, and I said, well, where he posted the picture, I said, Ted, did you see it? Well, no, where was it? And I'm like, it's right there. Like, you walked right past it. Like, you didn't even like look and think, well, what is that? Is that something new? Let me go and read it. But, you know, some people are only concerned with certain history rather than all history.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of all over Morristown.
Yeah.
We spoke off air and you kind of put something out there that I've thought about for a couple of days, and that Morristown is like a bubble. It's a bubble because everybody kind of knows everybody. Everybody's parents knows everybody else's parents more or less.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's still quite divided.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Morristown has history where it actually was taken to the Supreme Court over redlining. And we all know what redlining is. That's where, if a black person wants to wasn't allowed to buy a house in a certain neighborhood, you know. With that said, and with where we know predominantly Martin Luther King, Flagler, Cobb, Speedwell is generally minorities, black people. When you go back, once again, with these pictures that Ted France put, there were lots of Italians and everything down there.
Mm-hmm.
When redlining was basically by the Supreme Court, you had what's known as white flight. Because now all these Italians and we're moving. Oh, we're going to go to Randolph. We're going to go to Mendham. They moved out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And black people said, well, fine, I have a home. But
Mm-hmm.
we're still kind of in that one area,
Sure.
you know.
Sure.
The bad thing, I used to think it was a joke because my mom used to always say when we first moved here, because I never was allowed to go over there, because
Mm-hmm.
she said, coming up in Brooklyn, I don't, you're here, grass backyard park, you don't need to go over in projects to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing was, my mom used to like kind of say, they've put the black people there. And at any time, they could turn on the faucet and flood that and just wash all the black people away. And I used to say, Mom, that's horrible. That's not nice. No, they wouldn't do that. But you let a really bad storm hit Morristown.
Mm-hmm.
All down there floods to the point that people can't get out of their houses.
Sure.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
the town is, you have people that are more concerned about new buildings being built. Oh, M Station, our town is turning into a city. Okay, it is. That happens everywhere. You go back, Morristown really was a farming town, with the green and, but then people started building and the green had shops and everything. What, do you think everybody back then was, oh, they're building shops and stuff. Oh, they're changing our little, no. They accepted it. It's fine. New people came, new businesses came. The city grew. The same thing is happening now. And these people that want to, it's kind of like, okay, all right, I get it. It's not going to be the small town anymore. All right. But look at the positive side. With new buildings, we're getting an influx of people. With that influx of people, businesses are going to come. We're going to get, hopefully, shops opening up again around the green.
Yeah.
You can't look at it in the negative. You got to look for the positive out of it. People, when Headquarters Plaza was being built, Satira, you remember going past there and it was just a wall of like doors, right?
Right.
Now, everybody always was in going to the movies, and Bennigan's was in there, and you had AT&T and the Secret Service and businesses, and all of everybody's upset went away. And I
Yeah.
think that they need to go away. But where you're complaining and worrying about that, why are you not complaining about why isn't the town doing something about the flooding and what happens to these people down here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I'm thinking, if we're inclusive and we care about everybody and we see that, hey, how can we fix this?
Yeah.
How do we need to have a dam built? Do we need to, what can we do? People say, oh, well, that area always flooded. Okay, so if it's always flooded, why has nobody ever done anything?
Yeah.
And that the flooding really started after all of the Italians and Irish and whatnot moved out? Was it happening when they were there? Now, people say, oh, well, they're great builders and this, that, and the other. Okay, but did they build something to slow it, to stop it? Yeah, well, I don't know whether they did or didn't,
Yeah.
but that's what people should be focused on, not worrying about a new bunch of office buildings being built, which is bringing. Somebody told me something like 1,900 people are coming into working in those offices.
Yeah, I told you that.
Yeah, 1,900 people.
Yeah.
Oh, 1,900 out of 1,900, I'm going to say 1,000 got to be families,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
more. So now you got people looking for homes.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to shop. They're going to be around the green. Somebody's going to want to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with that is that those rents along Park Ave are insane.
Listen, we can open up a hot dog stand between the two of us, and we can make a killing.
Oh yeah.
Two
Oh
listen, $2.50 a hot dog. You know what I'm saying?
oh
Maybe $3.
oh yeah.
You know?
By the way, the again, for those that haven't looked, aren't aware of this, the Frederick Douglass marker on the green, I think it was put up in the fall of 2022. It was
Mm-hmm.
where 40 Park is, the Roots Steakhouse today, which is where Epstein's used to be,
Yep.
where the original speech took place, and it was the 40 Park Condo Association that said no to putting the plaque on the building, and
Mm-hmm.
the underwriting for both the books. There's a project called 1 Million Abolitionists that were also given out,
Mm-hmm.
and the cost of the marker was underwritten by Todd Allen, whose son attended Morristown Beard.
Yes. Yes. And
So
he actually, with that being done, he went and spoke at Morristown Beard,
yeah,
which I think was really good. Um, I think it's unfortunate, that Morris School District didn't have him speak at Morristown High School. You know, having been students at Morristown High School,
yeah,
we were never taught any of this in that school. I mean, I took African American studies with Mr. Harris, but
Mm-hmm.
in a regular history class, it wasn't, nothing about African American history was told. Oh, you were
yeah,
taught Martin Luther King. 2 minutes, maybe a day. Rosa Parks, maybe a little bit there. And that was it.
Yeah.
Inventors, black, we just weren't taught about it, which is honestly is bad. I could understand if, say, it was Mendham High School. So you got 95% white. Okay, whatever. But in our day, Morristown High School was, 40% black, you know, and to not teach history that happened in the town, that's even worse because you're teaching part of the history or a major part, but you're not teaching all of it.
Yeah.
And the part that you're not teaching is a part that would make certain people feel inclusive, feel like, oh wow, really? So somebody that like me was here and spoke. He looks like me. Oh, I know who he is. Besides just hearing about George Washington and, the Revolutionary War, and, he made them build a fort that he never built, fort nonsense, and it just, it's not, once again, it's just not inclusive, I made a post actually on, once again, 07960, whatever, Ted Francis thing there. And I made two posts. One was about the new head coach at Morristown Beard, a
Mm-hmm.
young man by the name of Taj Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know the name Valentine, his father graduated 88. I think he graduated from Morristown Beard, but he had come and played at Morristown High School for a year. So I coached this young man at Morristown Beard, and he gone off to college. He came back. He is actually the first black head football coach in Morristown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say that, people get up and, oh no, there's only one Morristown high school. Well, okay, you know what? Let me do some research once again. Morristown actually seceded from Morris Township. And I bet you a lot of people didn't know that. So, Morris Township really, if Morristown had never decided, oh, well, we don't want to be a part of the township, we want our own little spot, it would have been Morris Township. So now, where people want to say, oh, well, Beard is in Morris Township and Del Barton is in Morris Township. Well, Morristown High School possibly could have been called Morris Township High School.
Mm-hmm.
But to digress, the thing is that people that are into high school sports and follow it, you go on to a thing called Max Preps. If you type in Del Barton,
Mm-hmm.
Morristown Beard, or Villa Walsh, all three of those schools, the town that it lists, Morristown.
Mm-hmm.
This goes back to your bubble comment,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just those people that are Morristown and don't leave, and they're only leaving from Morristown is to go to, we're going to Point Pleasant or we're going to Lavalette for a week and then we're going to come back. That's who wants to sit there and be like, oh no, there's only one Morristown High School. No, 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 no. When, if you've played sports as a coach, if you've coached and gone to these games, every other team when they play them, oh, we're playing a Morristown team.
Yeah.
Sit there and say, oh, we're playing Morris Township. They say, well, Morristown. And I mean, the success that you have to admit that Del Barton has had brings that to Morristown.
Sure.
Because the thing is what you have to think is that when recruiters are out and they're traveling around to schools, if they're going to Del Barton, they got to come through Morristown because they're
Mm-hmm.
coming off at 287. So the thing is that, oh yeah, we're looking at this kid at Del Barton, we're going to Morristown. If a kid is good at Morristown, guess what? That recruiter may stop at Morristown High School too.
Yeah.
And that kid who
Yeah.
maybe is getting a half a look, he'll get talked to. Maybe they'll talk to the head coach at Morristown, who may or may not have even reached out to anybody to get the kid recruited, and the kid gets something
Yeah.
because of a recruiter going to Del Barton.
Yeah.
People will sit and, oh no, that doesn't happen. Yes, it does. I was at Parsippany. And the thing is there was a recruiter that came to Parsippany High School. He then went across to Parsippany Hills High School. And then he went over to, where did he go from? He went to Morris Knowles. So don't
Yeah.
sit and tell me it doesn't happen.
It
I've
does.
been coaching and doing this game long enough that I know. I know
Yeah.
recruit.
So
But,
so hold on. I'm gonna have to. We're pushing up against our time, Michael.
uh,
You know.
you know what?
So go ahead. Go. I'll let you.
Hey,
Let's
do
say this.
got to do. I got all the.
So listen, I just want to finish our segment off with what we call the 5 simple questions. So as we wrap up, I'm just gonna shoot these questions out to you, and let's see let's see how this goes. And listen, listen, I appreciate. Listen, I can speak for hours, but let's keep this to short answers. All right.
I'm gonna give you 5 quick answers.
Okay, we can drill down a little bit on them, but let's not, we're not making a mini series here.
Right.
Okay. So our first question: you played football, you coached football, you grew up in Morristown. When you're thinking professional football, Jets, Giants, or somebody else?
It's got to be Giants.
Okay.
And the reason that it's Giants is because later on in my 20s, I got an opportunity to be a bouncer,
Uh
Dorsey
huh.
doorman, and I worked at Boca Bay. I also worked at Bennigan's,
Okay,
and
there you go.
I was
Boca
very fortunate.
Bay, Jesus Christ! Oh,
Wow.
flashbacks,
Yeah,
man.
hey. So the thing was that at Bennigan's, I actually had met a girl. I had a girlfriend, and her girlfriend ended up dating Dave Meggett.
Okay.
Wow.
So I knew Dave Meggett. At Boca Bay, I met the defensive back corner. No, he was a safety.
Hmm.
Mark Collins,
Sure.
and it was like, you know, he invited me up to training camp when they were at Fairleigh Dickinson. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
wasn't I didn't walk up like everybody else. Mark had made it so that he told security when this guy comes, he drives up.
Hmm.
So I drove my car up to the field like at a player's. You know,
Hmm.
I get out of my car. This is going to be the end of it. Little kid comes up, and I'm
Hmm.
girlfriend. She gets out on the other side, and little kid comes up and he's got a football. And he goes, "Oh, can I have your autograph? Can I have your autograph?" And I like look across the car at the lady, at my girlfriend, and I'm like, and he's like there, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing any autographs, kid, not today. And I
Did you
walked
sign
away.
to Phil Simms?
I
I would
didn't.
have signed to Phil
I
Simms.
didn't sign it at all. It was kind of like I was like, no, I'm not doing autographs today, kid. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
I walked away, and he goes over to his dad, and I remember the dad like, oh, don't worry, and looking over at me like, you asshole.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: had I actually said, yeah, sure, kid, and signed this football, which had Lawrence Taylor now on it, Phil Simms, and whatever, and is worth a couple of grand, with my signature on it, it would be worth zero.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I'm a Giants fan.
That's a great story, by the way. So think about the education you were getting at Morristown. Is there any one or two teachers that really resonated with you?
Um, yeah, there were a few teachers that really stuck out for me.
Okay.
Um, it's kind of a tie. It's a
Okay.
tie for number one, and that's
Okay.
between the art teacher, Mr. Butler,
Okay. Yeah.
who was just really great stories. I mean, later on in life, I lived next door to him and
Mm-hmm.
talked to him before he passed away, and the things he got to do, travel to Cuba and everything else, great. The next person that it's a tie was Miss Murphy, who
Oh yeah.
who eventually became Morristown High School's first female she became
Mm-hmm.
the first black female
Mm-hmm.
principal of Morristown High School.
Yeah.
Um, due to something that, in my opinion, is out of administration's hands. Once
Mm-hmm.
you leave school, you do whatever you want out in the street. We're not responsible for you. You left,
Mm-hmm.
but due to something out there, you know, um, she more or less was forced to step down from being principal, which
Yeah.
to me, was wrong on the Morris School District's part. But those two um, tied for one. Mr. Davis, that
Mm-hmm.
that taught African American histories. There
Mm-hmm.
was also oh my God, I can't remember his name. I can see him. He was a tall gentleman, and he taught math as well. And he actually was like an official for track meets and stuff like that. I can't remember his name. Somebody would remember his name. I think it may have been Mr. Carr. Mr. Carr may have been his
It's
name.
car.
Yeah. So those
Okay.
those those were the ones that really stood out for me, as educators at Morristown High School that
Yeah.
made an impression on me. Um, those are the top ones. After
Okay.
that, you know, after that, I'd probably say Mr. Bassano,
Mm-hmm.
who was the football coach and my history teacher. Um, he with him, it's bad to say, but I used to sleep through his whole class. But Mr. Bassano would put all of his notes up on the boards, and I would get into class, sit down, and take all of my notes. So I would have all of his notes, and he would be surprised because I would sleep through his class, but still get A's because I would study my notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was him, and then also football coach was Mr. Backus.
Okay.
Mr.
Sure.
Backus taught woodshop,
Yeah.
but those were the people that really, you know, um, I enjoyed as teachers.
Yeah.
Later on, even I'd seen Mr. Bassano some years ago, as well. Those are the people who influenced me or were able to talk to me as a student. Yeah.
Okay. So, what would you say then? Walking around town, what was your favorite restaurant?
Back then or now?
Eat both.
Um, hmm. Around town right now. Oh God.
I mean, you've been gone for a year now, right?
Yeah, I've been gone for a year, but I used to always be out in town. You
Yeah.
know, even at our age, I drove a cab in Morristown for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I would be out in these bars and stuff, and got a lot of respect from the younger generation, millennials and whatever,
Sure.
because of things that I did in my life. But as far as restaurant, oh man, I'd have to say I like The Office.
Okay.
I liked The
Old
Office.
school. You went old school.
Yeah, I like The Office. Roots,
Yeah.
just, and then there was another one which was I can't remember the name of it, but it was next to Roots, and it had the all glass.
Urban Table.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. Urban Table, Urban
Yeah.
Table, and The Office. Those two,
Sure.
and
Okay.
probably a little bit more, I think, with the food at Urban Table.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So while at high school, it's a Friday or Saturday night. It's not football season. How would you spend your weekends?
um, well, it depended on what year you're talking about. You want to talk about our senior year?
Oh, yeah, senior year.
Okay, senior year. My senior year, because of the nonsense of not being allowed to play football, I
Yeah.
really hang around with the same clique
Hmm.
anymore. And I started hanging out with these three guys, younger guys, and I think were they one? I think they may have been 1 year or 2 years behind. And it's
Hmm.
a guy by the name of Jeff Guerriero,
Sure.
Brent Weaver,
Sure.
and John Wells.
Sure.
And hanging out with them, it was
They
crazy.
were freshmen. They were in my class.
Yeah, I was hanging out with you. Was that you would go to the teen clubs,
Yeah.
like they would like come up to me and they were like, "Oh, how you doing, Mike?" And Gary Arrow, I knew because I knew his older brother.
Okay.
They're like, "Oh, all right, whatever." And I started kind of hanging with them a bit. But these guys were like renting limos to go into the city. I was like, well, what are we going into? Well, we're just getting a limo. We're going into the city. Where are we going? It doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, fuck, it's a free ride. Yeah, I'll tag along. Sure. And that was it. Like, so like pretty much senior year, I kind of hung around with those guys. I didn't really party with our class much,
Sure. Okay.
because kids can be cruel. And the thing is I look back and I used to hang around with, like John Catano and Stephen Tillett and that clique. But when I wasn't allowed to play football, it was like everybody's back turned on you. Everybody, oh, we're going to call you point whatever. And it was like, I had to eat that.
Yeah.
But when those guys couldn't win a football game, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, guess what? I'm glad I didn't play because you
Yeah.
guys are laughing stock. You know,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's guys that I'm not going to put their names out there, but there are a group of guys who played that always get together and they post these pictures, whether they're in Arthur's or wherever, and it's like they put legends. And it's like, when I see it, I don't say anything, but I'm like, yeah, you're legendary losers because you didn't win it all. So that was what it was.
So listen, our last question. I'm going to give you. We're really pushing up against the clock now, but I'm going to give you 90 seconds with this one. Okay. So, with knowing everything that you know now in life, okay,
Okay.
would you go back in high school, and if so, what would you change?
With everything that I know now, if I was to be Marty McFly and go back to DeLorean and see Michael Briggs,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that I would tell him is keep your head in your books.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your head in your books. You want to play football, you got to keep your head in your books. You know, you need to do your schoolwork first. Stop worrying about going and being at John Catano's house or hanging out with. No, you want to do college football, you need to do your grades. You know, and that was something that none of those coaches really told everybody. They really didn't like push it, which was
Yeah.
sad, you know. The other thing, I probably, if I caught Michael Briggs in 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
I told him, go to Seton Hall Prep like your mom wants you to, or go to Del Barton. I'm dead serious, because I think had I gone to Del Barton, Morristown Beard, or Seton Hall Prep, because I passed the test and was accepted to Seton Hall Prep, but I just was such a little shit and pressured my mom so much about, oh, well, my friends are at Morristown. Mom, I want to go to Morristown. Oh, I want to go to Morristown. That my mom just gave in and said, fine, go to Morristown.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think had I gone to one of those schools, things would have turned out a lot different for me. You
Yeah.
know, it would have. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy
Sure.
with experiences, but to go back and be able to change something,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I would change.
Well, listen, Michael, we are so grateful that you took the time out with us for this episode, and I'm sure we could make 8 or 9 other episodes
Uh,
if we sit down
that's
with you again. But we really appreciate you taking the time. Listen, continue success with what you're doing with your coaching, and hopefully, listen, when you come back up north, uh, let us know. We can get together.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Usually I usually try and come up in the summers. I'm a member of the Eagles Club in Morristown.
Hmm.
You know, I usually am up there now because Morristown actually last year had a Juneteenth celebration, which was really nice.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
surprising.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, it keeps getting bigger. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, for me, you know, as we're getting older and older, I would honestly love to see Morristown have a Juneteenth celebration that is as big as they do, you know,
Hmm.
Drunken Day, St. Patrick's Day. You know,
yeah.
I would love to see that. That if Morristown was to do that,
Hmm.
then I could literally say to people, yes, I grew up in Morristown. Morristown is inclusive of everyone. We do a big parade for the Irish, and people are drunk and staggering all over the street. And
Hmm.
do a Juneteenth where people are out learning about culture and history, and about Black history, even in the town of Morristown.
Hmm. Awesome. So this concludes this episode of Beyond the Green. For Michael, for my brother Sateri, I am Peter. Till next time, take care and be good to each other.